Good morning, good afternoon, or good night, and welcome to Command Power, the show in which we discuss all things Magic the Gathering with a focus on Commander. And today we have another episode in our Spoiler Spotlight series in which I talk about, well, spoilers and tell you what my thoughts are on them. But before that, just a quick reminder to click subscribe if you enjoy my videos. We're well on our way to 1 million subscribers and your support means everything to me. And today we're talking about Koma World Eater. For 3 colorless, 2 green and 2 blue, it's a legendary creature Serpent 8/12 with this spell can't be counted, trample, ward 4, and whenever Koma deals combat damage to a player, create 4 3/3 blue serpent creature tokens named Koma's Coil. So this card is absolutely insane, and I could probably just end the video at that. This is just incredibly pushed for 7 mana. The original Koma, of course, was very good and could survive board wipes and destroy effects very nicely because of being able to sacrifice the coils. This in many ways can be stronger straight up because ward 4 is very close to just hexproof. People are very reluctant to spend that much mana on something because you're doing a favor to the whole table while setting yourself quite far behind, which means that this might get to stick around quite often. And of course, since it can't be countered as well, you don't really have many ways to interact with it other than board wipes. This one is weaker than the original one to board wipes, and that's good, but I don't think it's necessarily healthy for the game to have a card that basically only can be answered by board wipes. An 8/12 trample is also big enough that it gets through most things that are going to be on the table most of the time. You're almost always going to have at least one player that's a good attack, and because it has trample, you can't just chump it either. You have to throw a bunch of stuff at it or they're going to end up with 12 more power. That's just disgusting for 7 mana. This is just very powerful. On top of all that, because of its 12 toughness, if you just manage to buff it by a couple of points, it survives even stuff like Blasphemous Act, which would be one of the best ways to deal with this because it's a cheap board wipe that can also destroy all of the tokens that this makes. Green has no shortage of ways to pump creatures, so being able to get it very easily over 13 toughness just means that it's even harder to deal with than it already was. This is obviously a classic example of power creep or side creep because it's not necessarily better than the original card. It requires a little bit more in that it has to connect, but also it does reward you with a very similar amount of bodies that the original one does, just all in one go if you do manage to connect. And it has a stronger body and also is more resistant to spot removal. So yeah, this is just a very powerful card. The other interesting thing I wanted to note about this was the fact that it reuses the title of another legendary creature, Polukranos, World Eater. Now this is interesting because it means that they either noticed it during design and were just okay with naming it the same thing, in which case they're probably running out of ideas for names to give legendary creatures, or that they just didn't notice at all and slipped through the cracks, which I find pretty hard to believe. In any case, this is not the kind of card that I'm going to enjoy playing particularly, but certainly if you're playing for power, you could do a lot worse than having this as your commander. So there you have it. Those have been my thoughts on this new spoiler. What do you think though? Do you disagree with me or do you think I got it right? Let me know in the comment section below. I always make sure to read all of your comments. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to click like or subscribe. It really helps the channel. And until next time, take care.